Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan, bringing you Stats with Jack with co-host Jack Kinnicky as we preview Tottenham versus Leicester and give you all the stats and tactics that everyone needs to know going into tomorrow's game. Jack, my man, how are you keeping, brother?
Keeping quite well, David. Lots of good things, happening. I'm excited to be able to kind of dive into the tactics, dive into the stats. There's probably I don't think there's a show out there that really gives you not only the tactical kind of displays of both teams, but also gives you the stats on both teams. So basically, if you are that sort of person, I feel like this is exactly the show for you. So I would recommend sharing it to anybody that does kind of, have a bit of a liking towards this sort of stuff. Also, Dave, just kind of randomly a bit about myself. I sold, a bit of clothing, on Depop today. So I'm reaching, peak stats level, peak football hipster levels at this moment in time as well. Just keeping pretty well, David, at this moment.
No, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Well, look, let's see what Irish Hotspur Army are in the building with us. And there's a lot of love for you, Jack. Adil Bukhari says, hey, Jack, just wanted to say I love the show and the effort you put into these videos. Also, do you think the Adama deal will get done? Come on, you Spurs.
Do I think it will get done? Yes. Painfully get done. Clearly, it's not been easy. We're going for loan options. We're going to basically make it as difficult as possible. So I think it will get done. You can check out a video on the second channel. As you maybe well know, Adil, because you've been very, very kind to me here. But on the second channel, you can see what I think about maybe that 20 million pound move and maybe whether that'd be worth it for us. But really do appreciate the support, my man. Appreciate all the love. Sending it right back towards you.
Big up Adil, big up Adil. Killian Kenny says, big up David Harris. Come on, Morocco, big yourself up, my man. I hope you're keeping well. Elias is in the building. Big up, Jack, and big up everyone. Love the show and streams. You're a legend.
You're a legend as well, Elias. Big yourself up.
Ellie Glea Kakarat's in the house. Jack is the man. He knows his stats. He knows his stuff. Our Jack King of keeping us up to date with all things THFC. Yes. Big up, Ellie.
Big up, Ellie. Big up, Ellie. Thank you very much.
Good to have you in the building. Coco says, big up, Jack. Good vibes. Big up, Coco, my man. Big yourself up. Tottenham Tantrum Gold. Ladies and gentlemen, it's here. The best stat show around with the biggest Spurs fans around. David Bilnick, Irish Hotspur Harrison. He's number 2. Jats, Statsman, Arthur Rowe, Kinnicky. Come on, you Harris Army. Come on, you Flat Cap Army. Come on, you Spurs. Big yourself up, Dermot. Big yourself up, my man. Rockstar 90 says, evening all. Big up, my man. DG says, greetings, my man. I hope you're keeping well. Alfie Goslin, Levy is a pussy. Enoch out 2-1 Tottenham, Lucas and Son. Come on, you Spurs. Son is out, Alfie. Son is out injured till after the international break, my man. Leon is in the building. Big up, Leon. He says, evening, lads. Big up yourselves. Big up, Leon, my man. Anthony Gray says, greeting. We want those 3 points. No, 100%. Again, the ISPCA, the animal cruelty people, they're on call again because it's time to go fox hunting this week. So get the horses ready and let's rock and roll. Chris says, evening all, big up everyone, still under the weather, but still in support the Harris Army. Come on, you Flat Cap Army. Big up, Legend. Chris. I hope you're feeling better, my man. I hope you do get better. D-Trex Kane says, hey guys, hope you're doing well. The Don has arrived. I hope we shoot some foxes tomorrow night with the one and only, the king of the lane, Harry Kane, incoming hat-trick. Look, it's coming. It's coming. I mean, look, D-Trex, there's a reason why I told you to put Kane on the end of that name in the first place, my man. There's a reason. Never, ever doubt the king, my man. Never, ever doubt him. Shamu's in the building. Long Kane is covered, apparently, so be interested. No, look, it's not 100% confirmed. I know that Sky have reported this evening that there is one COVID case. And I know Brian Daigle said that Kane wasn't seen at the training ground. So, I mean, you could probably put 2 and 2 together and guess what it is. But look, Harry Kane hasn't texted me to say it's not happening yet. So we'll wait and see. I'll let you know as soon as he texts me. Zoe's in the building, says evening all. To get our stats on, big up Jack, David, and the Flat Cap Army. Let's smash them. Let's get after it. So big yourself up. Vince Vegas in the building. This might get hooked to 25% chance. I don't care anymore. Arsenal's cheating and manipulating their squad to fit their postponed games. I don't care anymore. The PL lost its integrity. 100%, my man. No integrity whatsoever. They can't even. They don't even know the meaning of it, let alone spell it. Dan Quay says, evening, David. I'm looking forward to taking home nothing less than 3 points from tomorrow's game and leaving Leicester with Spurs above Arsenal in the table. I can't wait, my man. It's time to leapfrog them fuckers. Brian Daigle says, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. anyone signed yet? Hashtag leave you out. No, Brian, there could be, according to today's reports, there could be 4 or 5 in the making, my man. So sit tight, Daigle. Big yourself up. And of course, Daigle down at the ground earlier on protesting. Absolutely, you got to love the commitment the guy has for the cause. Absolutely love it. And we were on the stream on Tottenham on Tour earlier on as well. So get over and check that out after this. James Smith says, love the show, Dave and the boys. Big up, James, my man. I really appreciate the kind words, brother. We also have David Woodford. Hi, both. Hope you both are all good. We're all good, my man. Yasin Shakur is in the house. Tupac's cousin. He says, hello. Big up, my man. Golden Cock, he says, evening. Hope everyone is well. We're all good, Golden Cock. I hope you are. We also have Starsky. Big up, gents. Still no signings. No, none yet, my man. None yet. John Fitzpatrick. Big up, Brian Daigle. You legend. Shawnee's in the building. Evening, lads. Big up, Shawnee, my man. And look, we have a lot coming up with Shawnee over the next 2 days. We have the pre-match build-up tomorrow starting at 3:30. And we also have the watch-along starting at 7:30 tomorrow. And then we will be back for transfer roundup and Spurs chat on Thursday as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that over the next few days. And we will be doing player ratings and predicted lineups as well. So do not worry. We have you covered for every aspect that you want. Also, he was at training today, Brian. How did you miss him?
Oh, thank God.
How did you miss him, Daigle? Come on, my man. You had me worrying. I thought Kane wasn't speaking to me because he never texted me about the situation, my man. Josh Barrett says,
David, no, but that was like a miracle, like there's like a course of miracle just being, pumped into my veins there. I mean, that's the power of Harry Kane, everybody. I mean, the fact that we now know that he is available, I don't know, David, just, beautiful, breath of exhaust, just everything just came through me all of a sudden there, just finding out that he was at training. That's just beautiful. That's just beautiful.
And everyone get down tomorrow and get a fiver on Harry Kane to get a brace. He loves scoring against Leicester. He absolutely loves it. Josh Barrett says, Lamptey's having a great game against Chelsea. Think 40 million and Doherty would do the job to get him here. I mean, look, there's no way Harry Potter is working with Doherty. And I'll be honest with you, there's no way we're stumping up 40 million either, my man. No way, Joshy boy. I'd love it, but I just don't think it's going to happen, man. But look, I'm not one for dashing dreams. I mean, a man can dream, can't we, Josh? Can't we? Dave Tyson says, evening, lads. Big up, Dave. I hope you're keeping well, my man. I hope you're keeping well. Everybody, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you smash that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. And feel free to get in a super chat or two to help support me and Jack on the YouTube journey. But look, Jacko, let's not hold them away any longer. Some of them are smashing their screens. Like, shut this Irish man up. Let's give me the stats. So, Jack, take it away. Let's give them what they need to know.
Take it away, everybody. As always, we go into the cold hard facts. Leicester City versus Tottenham Hotspur is the fixture with the 4th most goals combined since 2014. That 2014, I believe, is the time that Leicester City did enter the Premier League. I believe the fixtures that have scored more, it's like Arsenal, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, and then Crystal Palace versus like Chelsea or something, I believe, are the fixtures, since 2014 that have had more goals in total. But this has basically always been a goal fest, this sort of fixture, since 2014. So I certainly would, keep that in mind. Leicester City have conceded the most goals of the top 12, or basically the from first position to the mid-table, you probably would say they've scored the most or conceded the most goals in the entire Premier League table, from first position to 12th position. So that must be, taken into consideration. This is a much leakier defense than maybe seasons past under Brendan Rodgers. So that must be taken into account. Leicester City have conceded some of the most goals from set pieces in the Premier League. And in fact, they might still be leading in that metric. But I know the last time I looked at that sort of stat, it was around like November, kind of mid-November time. So it might have changed since then. To be fair, though, they probably have had a lot of games canceled, kind of similar to us. So maybe they're probably still leading that metric. So again, not only have they conceded a lot of goals just in open play, but they've also conceded a lot of goals from set pieces, just a very leaky defense. Leicester City also have the longest injury list in the Premier League, and we will break that down once we go into their predicted lineup as to why maybe you might see a lot of players missing. There's AFCON to season ending injuries to players, still returning from, kind of injury from last season. It's just it's a bad situation at the moment over here in Leicester. So I would say everybody do keep that into account. They do in fact have one of the longest injury lists, and that does actually probably improve our chances at the end of the day. Head-to-head record, Spurs' all-time record versus Leicester City. We have 158, drawn 21, 37 lost. Record in the last 5 Premier League matches. We won 4-2, of course, in that epic sort of display with Gareth Bale in order to kind of ruin the Foxes' chance of getting into maybe the Europe that they thought they could have achieved. They had to settle with, I believe it was a bit of Europa League or whatever we knocked them down into. They did beat us 2-0 at home last season as well, but then we won 3-0. Lost 1-2 and won 3-1. So you can see that these all have been a bit of goal fests, especially in the last 5 fixtures. Let's hope that continues, but maybe more on our side. And then Rodgers' record versus Spurs is 7 wins, 1 draw, and 5 losses. So you might look at that as actually not being the greatest of records. He kind of just seems to either win or lose. And then with Conte's record versus Leicester City, it's 5 wins, 1 draw, and no losses. So I would say you could expect Conte to probably continue that trend in one shape or another. I really doubt he will get that first loss to Leicester City, but if it were to happen, it could happen with Spurs. But there it is, everybody, the head-to-head record as well as the cold hard facts. And like always, everybody, feel free if you want to stop David or I basically on this kind of big montage of stats, of all things that you need to know come Spurs. Feel free to throw it in a super chat, and we will stop at any stage. But now getting into the predicted lineup of Leicester City, we've gone for Schmeichel in goal, Vestergaard at center back, and Soyuncu, who is returning from injury, probably will start this match alongside Vestergaard. Mark Albrighton, I've gone for right back, and that is because Timothy Castagna supposedly could be missing for this one. James Justin is returning from that huge injury. I mean, you probably think about James Justin from last season, didn't even finish that season. So he's coming off of a huge, like, year and a half, almost long injury, and he is potentially could return for this one. But I believe this would be the first match that he would play since returning from that huge injury. So will that come against Spurs? Will Brendan Rodgers risk him that early? I don't know. Like, I kind of doubt it. To a degree. So I think Mark Albrighton, who did actually play as right back against Watford, I believe, for them previously, could be starting at right back. Luke Thomas, who's returning from injury, will be playing at left back. A good player, I must add. Tielemans and Dewsbury Hall will be holding down the midfield. There are no central defensive midfield destroyers. There are no midfielders of the defensive sort of kind in Leicester's, kind of lineup. They basically are without Mendy, that player that you might recognize from last season and this season, that smaller kind of, defensive midfielder that they've used before. They're without Wilfred Ndidi, who's out off at AFCON. They've also are without Boubacar Samare, who as well as I believe is a bit injured too as well. So everybody, they will have no defensive midfielders, which will be quite interesting. James Maddison, of course, in that number 10 position. I would say Lookman has looked fantastic for them at times. Harvey Barnes as well, and then Patson Duck. I believe Jamie Vardy is still kind of dealing with some sort of injuries of some kind. So that is the lineup. They'll basically be more of a 4-3-3 than I would say a 4-2-3-1. It probably looks like a 4-2-3-1, but I will say it'd be probably more like a 4-3-3, this sort of lineup. But I mean, Dave, is there any particular players maybe in this Leicester City lineup that maybe you feel like maybe deserve a bit of praise, or maybe someone that you're a bit afraid of, or maybe someone that maybe we should attack? I mean, it's an open-ended question, but, have at it.
Look, for me, I think there's a number of players in there that can cause us problems. I mean, look, Harvey Barnes probably hasn't been the most lethal this season, but he is a player who can create a bit of magic out of nothing. You also have Patson Daka, Jack. I mean, he's an absolute live wire, and you were alluding to this earlier on. I think on Tottenham on tour that he's better than what people think he is holding up the ball as well. So he's one that we definitely have to watch. But for me, I think James Maddison is the main one, Jack. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know he hasn't had a great season by any standards, but the guy has been directly involved in 7 goals in his last 6 Premier League appearances, which is 4 goals and 3 assists. And that is more than he had in his previous 26 matches in the competition combined, which was 3 goals and 3 assists. So, I mean, he's on form right now. He's on a lot of form right now. Vardy's been out injured, and this guy stepped up. But also, James Maddison is dangerous from free kicks. So we're going to have to watch giving this guy any free kicks, especially with the form he's in front of goal.
I believe he said 4 goals, 3 assists in 6 matches as well, Dave, which, just means he's on fire at this moment in time as well.
Yeah, absolutely on fire. And look, even Mark Albrighton, I know Like the reason why I call Mark Albrighton out, Jack, because if he gets down that right-hand side, he's got a great delivery into the box, a very good delivery into the box. So we need, if he gets down that right-hand side on overlaps, we have to get out and close him down quickly. Tielemans is another player I like in midfield, Jack. I think he's absolutely excellent. A guy that Tottenham were training when he was at Anderlecht, when the guy was 16. I was raging to see him go to Leicester. But he has goals in him, Jack. He has goals in him, and he's good from long range as well. We've seen that all last season, and we've seen it at times this season. So although they have a lot of injuries, there's still players there that can cause us problems. As for Lopeman, I mean, I think he's one of the most overrated players there is, Jack, so I wouldn't worry about him.
There you are, everybody. There you are. We are going to move on, though. That is the Leicester City predicted lineup. You can't get anywhere else, everybody. The unsung hero for Leicester City. And you might be surprised that it's this guy, Tielemans. But the reason being is because there are two players that you probably would look at Leicester City as the danger men. Maybe there's one that is more of a key player that everybody talks about. Maybe hint, could be Madison. But the one that I feel like isn't given enough appreciation is probably Youri Tielemans. And I would probably argue as well, like Youri Tielemans has been linked with Spurs at certain stages, maybe for a summer move. And I feel like he'd actually be plenty worth it. He is, Premier League proven. He is an unbelievable passer of the ball, an excellent deep line creator, also really works very hard. And you can probably see that here. He's tied for the second most goals in the Leicester City squad with 5 goals, the most progressive passes, which is basically pass forwards of 10 yards or more, with 86 so far completed this season. The most key passes, which is basically a pass that leads to some sort of chance created, a pass that leads to a goal, basically that pass that opens things up, you might say. And he has the most in the entire Leicester City squad with 23, the most passes into the final third in the squad with 69, the second most shot creating actions, which is basically, like I always say, a fancy way of saying chances created, with 41, the most passes completed under pressure, which is basically anytime you're just, find yourself in tight spaces, anytime that, the pass is a bit more difficult than it usually is, anytime that somebody's just, pulling on your shorts, pulling on your kit and everything, he has the most passes completed under pressure with 143. So Youri Tielemans, everybody, I would argue is a huge unsung hero for Leicester City. I know he's probably one that is plenty on our radar, maybe one that maybe we're already plenty aware of, but I would say maybe not given enough appreciation potentially by maybe football fan, kind of community in general, and maybe even Leicester City fans if they saw this and they realized, wow, this guy's actually been, the huge creator in our squad, this season, and probably would be a huge miss if he were to go.
Yeah, no, he's definitely one. They're holding on to him. He's not going cheap. He's definitely not coming to Tottenham anytime soon anyway, that's for sure.
No, I think he would definitely. He wouldn't be cheap. That's definitely true, Dave. The key player is going to be James Madison, tied for the second most goals with 5 in the entire Leicester City lineup. Again, that would be the same as Tielemans there. Tied for the most shots in the entire Leicester City squad with 36. Tied for the most goal creating actions, which of course is like almost like a way of measuring a huge chance created, if not better than a huge chance created, because it actually led to a goal, with the most goal creating actions with 11, which is actually quite a fair amount, I must say. The most shot creating actions with 44, the most through balls played, and I would say FB Ref, which is where I get all my stats from, everybody. They do not like, Dave, they don't really, they're quite, kind of I would say strict what qualifies as a through ball. They probably that one that, Harry Winks had, to Harry Kane that he missed the other day by an entire, cruise ship sort of lane, that would probably qualify as a through ball, yet he missed it. But, I would say any through ball that they would, put in their stats, it definitely is a true through ball in between the lines, in between the defenders. And he's completed the most in the entire squad with 5. So that must be taken into consideration. The most passes into the penalty area with 18, and the second most players dribble pass with 17. I would probably just say, everybody, James Madison, as you probably already know by now, is a very good number 10. He is a very good player in sort of that 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 shape, where he is kind of the number 10 in that sort of setup. He does quite well with it. He doesn't really work very hard off the ball, which we could take advantage of. He's not really exactly a hard worker, but he is very good with the ball at his feet, can hit a shot from distance, can play a pass through the lines, can also as well just, put in a beautiful bending ball into the box. So he's just someone that when he picks up the ball with time and space, you probably should be a bit worried, I would argue. we are going to move on to how do Leicester attack everybody. And with Leicester attacking, the first one is probably going to be like I was just speaking about, that Madison through ball everybody. And this is, again, maybe finding these kind of sort of spaces where Madison, I would probably argue everybody, he is quite, decent when it comes to finding that kind of ball in behind, finding that ball sort of into one of those sort of players that, is kind of making a run beyond the player. I know this is moving a bit fast. I tried to make it a bit faster maybe this time for everybody, so I don't kind of bore everybody, but you can kind of see a bit of kind of quick link up in the middle of the park. Madison then basically finds Harvey Barnes at the back post, who then is able to slide it across to Lookman for a tap in. It is somebody, I would say, Madison, that is able to basically have lots of time on the ball and is able to find that pass in behind. I really would everybody check on Madison as somebody that when he picks up the ball in these sort of spaces, he is going to be the danger man. And he is going to be somebody that can basically unlock us, not only with a shot from distance, but also with kind of a looping ball in behind or a ball played on the floor, on the carpet, in behind as well. Certainly somebody that I would be very, very wary of. But that is probably the end of the sort of Madison animation, everybody. Again, hopefully you do enjoy it. I don't want to also watch us concede too many times just for Kuva's sake. And this is actually one from last fixture that I did as well, because of course this fixture was postponed. This fixture was kind of canceled. So I did actually make this Madison animation before everybody when this match was canceled. So I did an entire stats with Jack only for the match to be canceled. So I figured I would include the one that I did previously, about a month ago. And this is, again, just Madison just playing that through ball again to Harvey Barnes, where Harvey Barnes just makes that kind of inverted run behind the back four and is able to find, somebody in behind. And Madison, again, everybody, when he has time and space on the ball, I would be extremely worried. That is basically the main lesson, though, when it comes to James Madison. But Dave, unless I'm missing anything, I am going to move on to Patson Daka. Do you feel like maybe James Madison probably could be, though, potentially as a question, maybe the most dangerous player potentially in that Leicester City lineup? I think you're on mute, Dave.
As soon as he gets the ball, Jack, watch Patson Daka, Harvey Barnes, and the players just make their runs in behind. And by them doing that, they might create space in front for the guy. He's a very, very tricky player on his day. Very skillful. He's quick on the ball. Look, Leicester, ideally, they're going to look to break quickly on us. They're going to sit in. They look to take the ball off us, break quickly, and absolutely everything will come through Harvey Barnes. Or not Harvey Barnes, Madison.
Absolutely. And this one's going to be a bit interesting, everybody. This one's going to be about Patson Daka. And basically, I'm kind of explain maybe why they signed Patson Daka, because what Patson Daka has done is he basically does exactly what Jamie Vardy has done in terms of the movement. He does the same sort of movement where he makes those runs in behind that creates space for others, because sometimes when we think about a player with that sort of pace, sometimes we think about a player with that sort of speed, we think about maybe what their threat is towards the goal. But you can also think about it as when he's making these sort of runs beyond the center backs, he'll actually drag a center back with him because he's so quick that you have to honor it. So what will happen is somebody, especially maybe Davinson Sanchez, who might be playing in the middle tomorrow, will probably get dragged, with that Patson Daka run. And that Patson Daka run could end up actually inevitably creating space for others, creating somebody to make a run off of that sort of initial run. A good example beyond Jamie Vardy would be actually Ollie Watkins. I would say in the Aston Villa, you always see Ollie Watkins. He's always making these runs in between the lines, always making these runs through the channels that basically creates space for others because he is a quick player. He has good hold-up plays, so you have to kind of honor that as a center back or as a defender. So he will end up dragging you with him, and then inevitably that will open up space for another player actually to score. And I would say Patson Daka is very, very similar to that, everybody. So that's basically what this sort of animation is basically Dewsbury Hall picking it up in a bit of space and then just pings a pass, in behind for Daka. Daka picks it up, with probably back towards goal, but with the back towards goal, he's actually a lot better, I would actually argue, than Jamie Vardy. I believe he has like 3 or 4 assists in the Premier League actually so far this season, Patson Daka, which is plenty more than Jamie Vardy has. And that does show as well, if you even the seeing eye test would even show you at Patson Daka, I would probably argue he has a bit better hold up play than Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy is, of course, a legendary striker, but what is kind of nice about Patson Daka for them is I do feel like not only does he offer that pace and behind, but also can offer that kind of, that bit of that hold up play that I don't think really Jamie Vardy has ever really had necessarily in his game, as good of a striker he is. Patson Daka, I would say, certainly has it. So basically, this animation is showing him kind of basically dragging Davinson Sanchez and then basically pulling it back to an incoming run, James Madison, late run into the box, who basically just touches it home from there. But we do have another animation, like I said from before, where basically I kind of discussed, last time, the game that never was, of course, where again, a bit of Patson Daka movement here, where basically Patson Daka just makes a bit of a run in behind from a James Madison through ball and touches it home. There are basically two ways that Patson Daka could hurt us. It's a bit of hold up play, like I was describing before, and it also can be kind of like this example where he just makes basically a beautiful run in behind, and then James Madison just slides him through in order to touch it home. He also has great finishing ability. Somebody that has shown, is probably a very, very, very good backup to Jamie Vardy, and someone that could potentially take the throne of Jamie Vardy in years to come. But yeah.
He's going to cause us a hell of a lot of problems tomorrow night, Jack. You're looking at Davinson Sanchez with Patson Daka running the behind. If that ball comes, we know what Davinson Sanchez is like. He can't deal with it. Tanganga switches off. He'll run across Tanganga at times. He might not get dry against Ben Davies, but, if he runs off him, he probably will because he's faster than him. So you look at our back three tomorrow night. All he has to do is keep running in behind him, keep making that runs, keep dragging them all over the place. And he will get dry there tomorrow. And we have to remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but was this not Haaland's replacement at Red Bull Salzburg? So, I mean, he's a good striker. He's a very good striker.
Do you feel like that whole, I feel like Davey's actually kind of like an Ollie Watkins, and that, what we've seen from Ollie Watkins, I think in the Premier League, is that he's just nonstop running. And then with that nonstop running means that a center back sort of has to honor one of those runs and then might get pulled out of position. I think that's actually what Patson Daka will do. That maybe someone like a Jamie Vardy doesn't necessarily do. I think Jamie Vardy just makes very intelligent runs in behind that he takes advantage of, where I feel like Patson Daka actually has a bit of hold-up play that maybe Jamie Vardy never had. And I think maybe as much as we might be excited that Jamie Vardy isn't available for this one, David, I would actually argue Patson Daka, not only does he offer the Jamie Vardy runs, but he also can offer something a bit different on top of that.
No, absolutely spot on. Look, I just said to everybody, watch out for him tomorrow. With our back line, he's going to cause them problems.
There you are, everybody. The next one is going to be a Harvey Barnes one-on-one sort of situation. And what I kind of like about Harvey Barnes, and what I've always liked about Harvey Barnes, and this is kind of actually quite simple, but he is very, very, very good when it comes to the one-on-one sort of situations. I feel like he's, very good at dribbling at his opponents. He's very good at kind of taking on his man. And this is basically what this is showing, is that you find Harvey Barnes in a bit of space on the wing. It's a bit of a miscommunication between the likes of Emerson and Tanganga. And what happens here is that basically Harvey Barnes, he draws a lot of attention on himself, a lot of players ball watching, and he just slides a pass into Tielemans, who's able to tap it home on the near post. Again, somebody that I would say you probably do have to keep an eye on. I know Leicester City, they do have a lot of players that are missing for this one, but you actually look at their starting front three, front four to a degree, and it's actually almost at full strength. Maybe apart from Jamie Vardy, it's actually at full strength. So I would actually take that into consideration. They're going to be very suspect defensively, but going forward, they're almost at full strength. So you have to take that into consideration. And Harvey Barnes, I would say, he's not really having the same season as he probably did last season. But I would say there's still that player in there. Very, very good in the one-on-one sort of situations. He's extremely good at taking on his player and then being able to find a pass or even find a shot from there. He can be a bit selfish. That might help us. That might hurt us. I think, that's something I would certainly like in some of our players, I would say, in front of a goal. But he is also somebody that is a bit selfish sometimes, I would actually argue, from what I've seen in front of goal. But basically what will happen is if he finds himself in these sort of positions, he will basically just be taking on his man, finding a pass or finding a shot from there, and basically be causing a bit of havoc. But there you are, everybody. Harvey Barnes is also our third and final sort of threat that Leicester City do have. We are going to move on to how do Leicester, in fact, defend Leicester do defend in sort of a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 shape, but I don't think we need to really praise it or dive into it much too long because they haven't been very good defensively this season. So we should be able to break them down. They basically will have the likes of Tielemans and Dewsbury Hall doing a lot of the defensive work in that midfield, whereas James Maddison will be taking up a bit of that free role. James Maddison also, I will say, is not a hard worker defensively. In fact, is probably quite lazy, I would argue, off of the ball. And so we definitely could take advantage of that because he won't really probably be doing very much in that sort of middle of the park area. You do have Patson Daka, though, who is a very good presser of the ball with 3 center backs. It might make his job obviously a lot harder to be doing, kind of good pressing of the ball. But I would say that Patson Daka, just like Jamie Vardy, is, kind of relentlessly pressing, kind of relentlessly causing a bit of havoc. So that must be kind of taken into account. But the wing backs are certainly going to need to have a good match because they're going to need to occupy the likes of their wingers as well as their fullbacks. But I would say that little red area where Kane, Lucas, and Bergwijn are going to be the little half spaces, are going to be those little kind of, middle areas of the park that we're going to have to play well in because they will kind of sit back in this sort of shape where it probably looks like almost like a 4-4-2 or like a 4-4-1-1 is definitely their defensive shape, I would probably say. And so we will have to find a way to break that down. But everybody, again, this is kind of Leicester City's sort of defensive shape that must be taken into consideration. But at the same time, not a very good defense so far this season. So maybe not something that we need to break down too much. We just blew through that Leicester City sort of, segment, everybody. So if you do feel like, you need to, maybe ask some questions via super chat or maybe ask some questions in the comments regarding maybe Leicester City, feel free to do so. But we are finally going to move on now into maybe how do, Spurs maybe can potentially break down Leicester here.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say quickly before we do move on to that is that, look, if Leicester do sit that low block, it's up to us to show teams that we can break them down. I mean, we struggle to break down teams that sit that low block. So, look, it could be a very interesting game or a very boring game tomorrow because I think we'll also sit in and try and catch them on the counter. So, look, the onus hopefully will be on Leicester to come out of that shape, considering they're the home team. But I mean, if I was Brendan Rodgers, I'd be instructing them sit deep, be patient, take the ball off Tottenham, and attack.
There you go. You heard it from the Don himself. You heard it from the Don Harris himself, everybody, in terms of the tactics. How can Spurs win this game? Look, it's as you just saw, it's the exact same shape we were just breaking down before, except this time I am kind of pointing out maybe the areas that we could have hurt them. As always, probably one of the most legendary stat shows you can probably ever see, or one of the most legendary tactical shows you could ever see, is way back on the channel where we do explain what we have seen so far under Antonio Conte, and that is to be explained with the Bergwijn, Kane, and Lucas little triangle that you see right there. They pick up these sort of half spaces, Lucas and Bergwijn. We're predicting, I think, a 3-4-3 tomorrow. If it isn't that 3-4-3, I could be completely wrong, but I am going for that 3-4-3 tomorrow. What we could see with that 3-4-3 is Bergwijn and Lucas picking up these sort of kind of inverted number 10 sort of roles as wingers in between the midfield and in between the back four, where it causes a bit of miscommunication. It causes a bit of kind of, trouble. It's like, do we really mark these guys? Like, can they do anything with this space in this sort of, in these situations? I would say, especially with Lucas, yes, he can. We saw it with Sonny. Yes, they can. With Bergwijn, I'm not so sure. But you could definitely say that these sort of half spaces are what these kind of, inverted wingers, these very kind of tight wingers do end up taking up. And then Harry Kane as well, sometimes will take up those spaces because he's a fantastic creator. But everybody, this is sort of the shape that we're going for, 3-4-3 going forward. Sessegnon and Emerson, they need to keep the width. They need to keep the likes of the fullbacks for Leicester very honest. They need to keep the likes of the wingers for Leicester very honest and kind of pull them back. And then there needs to be a bit of combination of triangles between the midfield of Højbjerg and Skip, which we do predict tomorrow. They need to hold those triangles with the fullbacks as well as those wingers that are taking up those half spaces. It's pretty much, I would say, kind of a tailor-made sort of formation for Antonio Conte's 3-4-3. Antonio Conte's 3-4-3 should be able to break down a formation like this actually quite easily, especially since they don't have those, destroying midfielders. I would say Leicester in there, they're going to have to, work a lot harder than they're used to. Some of those midfielders they have, and will they be able to do it is remain to be seen. And so I would say this is sort of a tailor-made sort of situation for us to have a good attacking display, because I would say Antonio Conte sort of formation, it really does open up a formation like this. So I would actually be quite excited, everybody, for tomorrow, especially when it comes to us kind of finding spaces where Lucas and Bergwijn are. I think they're going to have plenty of the ball. They're going to have plenty of opportunities to be able to create things. Whether they will do it remain to be seen, but we will see it probably tomorrow, them picking up the ball in great spaces. Moving on to our predicted lineup, everybody. We do have Lloris in goals, Tanganga right-sided center back. Sanchez is again a middle center back, which not certainly my favorite, but I think we're just going to have to stick with it right now until Eric Dyer returns, as well as Romero returns. I guess both of our ideal, middle center back sort of, kind of contenders are out for this one. Ben Davies will continue his good form at left-sided center back. Sessegnon hopefully will replace Doherty for this one, or Doherty for this one. Skippy will be there. Højbjerg might be there in that middle too. Maybe we'll see a Harry Winks. If there is a Harry Winks, I doubt it will be in midfield too. I think it would be a 3-5-2 if we were to see Harry Winks. Emerson out wide. Lucas, Kane, and Bergwijn up top. I think we've gone for Bergwijn because we've seen a bit decent praise from Antonio Conte when it comes to Bergwijn. Maybe this won't happen just because he could be on the way to Ajax, but I think he could start this one just because it seems like Antonio Conte does like using him when he can. And I think in this situation with Sonny being out, he probably will use him and maybe go for the Højbjerg Skip sort of combination and then see what Bergwijn can do to replace Sonny. I don't think there is any replacing Sonny, but we'll see how he does in that sort of position. I mean, Dave, do you see 3-4-3 tomorrow? Maybe we could be wrong. 3-5-2?
No, look, I think he went 3-5-2 against Chelsea because Bergwijn wasn't fit. I think the fact that he has the option of Bergwijn, and we've seen what he said in the press conference about Bergwijn. So now that he is fit, very, very interesting to see whether Conte starts him or not. But I think he will. I think it will be a 3-4-3. I just can't see us playing a 3-5-2 tomorrow. I just don't see it. And I think it's important that the midfield partnership is Skip and Højbjerg, purely because I just don't think that Winks is an away game player. I don't think he gets stuck in enough. Yeah, he has a bit of passing and stuff about him, but away from home, you need two men in there made of steel that's going to turn the ball over and work the bollocks off, and that's what you're going to get with these two. And I just hope we see Sessegnon in there. I cannot take any more games with Matt Doherty at left wing back.
Yeah, I think that's just going to be a pain for all of us, Dave. I don't know what we did to deserve to see that. Our key player for this one is going to be Lucas Moura. Lucas Moura, I do feel like everybody, he's in decent form for us. He's, showing that, especially without Sonny, he probably is our key player without Sonny being here. He's going to try to take on a bit of that burden. And so we are going to give him a bit of that praise. I would say as a more sexual, anybody out there, I would say this is your time. Most players dribble pass in the entire squad with 33. I would say he also has some of the most players dribble pass in the entire Premier League in his position as well. He's only, I think, he's way behind Adama Traore, but I would say he kind of is in that sort of metric of just players that sort of skin players for fun, I must say. Most progressive carries in the entire squad, which is a carry of 10 yards or more forwards, something that would be quite foreign to someone like a Harry Winks. Basically, he is a very good progressive ball carrier, Lucas, with already 99 ball carries so far this season. Most carries into the final third with 37. Tied for the most goal-creating actions, which I would say is a huge stat right there, actually, for Lucas Moura. The most goal-creating actions so far this season with 6. So he plays a part in every goal that we do score. Tied for the most through balls completed as well with 4. As much as I feel like he has really struggled with picking his head up and finding that pass, I mean, at the end of the day, he finds himself in those sort of positions, and he has been able to find actually passes in behind, being able to play in between the lines. So he is actually tied for the most through balls completed with 4 so far this season, and the second most key passes, which we explained earlier, with 21. And he's tied for the most assists with 3. So I would say Lucas Moura, a quite productive season in terms of creativity. He's actually has been a very good creative sort of player for us. Can he hit it with the goals? I'm not sure, but at least in the creative department, I would say these stats would show that he's actually hitting the markers here. Maybe Lucas Moura probably deserves a bit of praise for that, because at the end of the day, you need either one of your wingers or one of your forwards to be someone that's either a good creator or someone that's good maybe at scoring the goals. And I would say Lucas Moura certainly this season is showing that he is very good at scoring the goals, everybody. So someone that I would say is our key player. everybody that is a Lucas fan is probably absolutely delighted to see these stats, David. Just to see a bit of praise, towards the Mr. Mora. But Dave, I mean, I don't know. Some of these metrics here, I would say it just shows that Lucas Mora has been a great creator for us so far this season. At the end of the day, maybe he hasn't shown up with the goals. He has shown up with a great goal at one stage against Norwich, but I don't know, Dave. I feel like these are just good numbers for someone who's maybe showing that they do have a creative side to them.
No, look, Lucas Moura, I think he's had a decent enough season. It just depends what Lucas Moura turns up, Jack. Whether it's the one that wants to turn down into all the blind alleys, or the one that creates all the space for other people and creates havoc and plays the right pass. For me, I hope it's obviously the second one. But look, he's having a much better season than what he has done in his Spurs jersey today. So long may it continue. I mean, the guy has always worked hard. The biggest problem with him was his end product, and you can see here by these stats, Jack, that he's certainly starting to bring that. So, fair play to him, and let's see more of it.
They wanted to see Lucas in that number 10, and I would say in the sort of 3-4-3 shape, he has been playing a version of that number 10 quite centrally as well. And I would say this is maybe the end product that you're seeing everybody from Lucas Moura. So, probably nice to see. It's a bit heartwarming. The unsung hero, I've gone for a bit of contentious one maybe here just to have a bit of fun, everybody. But I have gone for Emerson, and I am going to explain it. I was going to go for Harry Kane for this one, but I'm not sure. There is some sort of rumor that Harry Kane at one stage, I was told, was going to be potentially out for this one with COVID. So I kind of had to change up the unsung hero for this one last minute. I was going to put Harry Kane in this one as an unsung hero. I was going to put Højbjerg in this one, but I feel like you guys are so sick of seeing Højbjerg probably as the unsung hero. So I was going to go with Harry Kane. Then I was told Harry Kane might have COVID. Now it seems like he doesn't. So my third option was Emerson. So I am going to explain maybe why Emerson, probably 2 degrees, still deserves maybe that unsung hero. We originally bought him for back four. We originally bought him to be a very defensive right back, everybody. And I feel like he has met that metric. He's now come into Antonio Conte's side where he's asked to be a lot better going forward. I feel like he has failed in a lot of ways at being good going forward in Antonio Conte's system. At the same time, though, I feel like sometimes we're kind of taking for granted potentially what Emerson offers us defensively. And you would say, actually, he's, considerably played fewer minutes than the likes of Højbjerg. He's considerably played fewer minutes than I think the likes of Skip. He's played, fewer minutes than a lot of players that you would probably argue would maybe beat him in some of these sort of defensive measures. And so this is just a bit of praise, I would say, towards Emerson. Emerson has the most tackles and interceptions combined, in the entire Spurs squad as well. I think it's in the Premier League or something, David. I think Emerson is something like in the 97th percentile, 98th percentile in this sort of metric of tackles and interceptions combined, which means there's only like one fullback or basically in the entire Premier League that's getting more tackles and interceptions per 90 than this guy. So I would say in terms of those metrics, he's been unbelievable. The most passes blocked so far this season as well with 30, the most dribblers tackled, which basically means any sort of player that's one-on-one with a player, any sort of one-on-one situation. He is the most likely player in our squad to be able to win that sort of one-on-one and get that tackle. And he also has the highest percentage of dribblers tackled as well. So some people think Emerson gets beat off the ball a lot. He gets dribble past a lot. It's not exactly true, especially if you were to look at his percentage of, people dribbling past him. It's around 50%, which is much higher than the rest of our squad. So that must be taken into consideration as well. He also has the most tackles in general, as well as in our entire squad with 58. And I would say final bit of praise on Emerson just quickly. I think he's been horrible going forward in terms of putting a ball into the box. He's been atrocious. But I would say in the tight areas when he is actually just trying to keep possession and when he is just trying to, basically play an inside pass into like a number 10 or play an inside pass into somebody in the middle of the park. He's actually been quite good at that. And so this measure right here, a pass is completed under pressure. When he is under pressure, I would say he does play the right pass to keep possession. Just to keep possession, he does play the right pass, which is why he has maybe already the third most passes completed under pressure. It's a bit of a contentious unsung hero, Dave. I think he's not in great form. I would rather not him be the player in this slide. But I kind of ran out of my first two choices for this one. So I've gone for Emerson with this one, Dave. But is there anything in particular maybe that I've said, maybe regarding, his actual percentage of tackles, the fact that he does, with fewer minutes played than a lot of other players in our squad, he's already, topping all the defensive marks, and as well as in terms of fullbacks in general in the entire Premier League, David. I mean, the guy is, hitting all the markers for defensive numbers. It's just going forward. He's just been horrible.
No, look, in terms of going forward, crossing, he probably lacks it. But at the end of the day, you can see here, Jack, what he provides to this team is a bit of steel. Someone that's willing to go and work for the ball, someone that's willing to tackle, someone that's willing to lay down a marker. He's not easy to get against. He brings physicality to this team. You can criticize him all you want for his crossing abilities, but he brings physicality, which is something that maybe this Tottenham team lacks. If a Højbjerg and Skip aren't rolled out in midfield together. So, look, we can berate on this guy all you want going forward, but defensively, I like him. I think he gets stuck in. He's made, I think, one or two mistakes this season, but he's only adapted. For me, he's 22. Kyle Walker was loaned out to Aston Villa at 22 from Tottenham Hotspur. I just call on everybody to give this guy a bit of time to settle in. I mean, it's ironic that we call out all these new signings, but yet no one wants to call out any of the older players. Some of them that are still playing today that people actually think are still good enough, even though they're not. You know what I mean? And I'll be proven right in the long run, like I always am. And that's to you out there, John Fitzpatrick. I'm always proven right in the long run. And I was proven right when it came to Harry Kane in the long run, my man.
There you are, everybody. And, like I said, wouldn't really like to have Lucas Moore, or wouldn't really like to have Emerson as a sort of player as my unsung hero, but, kind of ran out of choices there. So I decided to go with him. But how do Tottenham attack? How do Spurs attack? Coming for this upcoming, Leicester City fixture, we do have Lucas creating a bit of chaos as maybe one of our first threat. I would say this is exactly what defines Lucas. He's unbelievable in the tight areas. He's unbelievable in the 1-2s. He's unbelievable playing one-touch passing. He's just great at being able to create things out of nothing. And that is kind of exactly what Lucas Moura is as a player, is creating something out of nothing. I'd like to kind of liken it to being kind of like creating a bit of chaos. And so that's exactly what this one is with Lucas Moura, everybody. Basically, in this sort of situation, we find ourselves where Lucas is picking up the ball in those half spaces like we just spoke about before. He does a bit of that 1-2 with the likes of Harry Kane. And I don't know, David. I mean, maybe this is the part that we just need to focus on. I'll try to pause it, actually. But this sort of 1-2 that he plays here, as you might see with Harry Kane, this sort of 1-2 that he just played there, we've seen that multiple times with Lucas. What he does is he picks up the ball, he sees somebody to his right, he outside foot, kind of touches it to that player. He makes an inverted run. He never makes a run to the outside, almost never. He'll make that run towards the middle of the park and then try to do a bit of a 1-2 with this sort of player. Someone like Harry Kane is fully ready for this pass, I must say, and will play it back to him. And then what Lucas Moura does here is that then he plays that through ball into Bergwijn. And like we said, everybody before, Lucas Moura tied for the most through balls completed in our entire squad. So it's actually not beyond us to maybe say that he could play this pass maybe in between the lines here to likes of a Steven Bergwijn, who is on side here for this goal. And so I would say, everybody, again, Lucas Moura, he creates a bit of chaos for us. He creates a bit of kind of momentum when it comes to just creating something out of nothing. Like when you really do look at this passage of play, it is kind of something created out of nothing. We're just kind of passing it around the back. We give it to Emerson. Emerson plays that sort of pass under pressure here into the likes of Lucas. Lucas is able to basically turn and look upfield. He almost never looks backwards, I would say, Lucas. Probably something that we wish he did a bit more often, which is look backwards. But he will actually just always look forwards. He'll find that player, and Harry Kane right here. Harry Kane will play him back, and then he'll play that ball in behind for Lucas or for Bergwijn. So everybody, Lucas Moura, he's been one of our best creators this season. It's something we're just going to have to get used to. Maybe it's kind of a new role for him. I'm not sure. But it is, everybody, Lucas Moura as one of the main threats that we could put against Leicester, is him just creating a bit of chaos, creating something out of nothing, and finding those sort of half spaces and playing him, playing somebody in behind with the most through balls. So I would say, especially this sort of goal, you probably have seen once or twice before, or even seen close to a version of it through Lucas Moura. So that probably is why maybe it looks so familiar.
No, look, we've seen this. We've seen Tottenham attempt that time and time again, Jack. So absolutely spot on there. Absolutely spot on.
The next one here I have for this one, Dave, is Sessegnon versus Albrighton. And this is, I think, a funny threat here. It is actually just because Mark Albrighton, I think, like David said before, he's good going forward, but will he, test out defensively, especially when we have flying wingbacks and a 3-4-3 system? I think this would probably maybe potentially show that, maybe someone like an Albrighton could get exposed. Basically, this is not too complicated. What this basically is a bit of kind of link up play where Harry Kane picks up the ball in kind of a deep position and is able to find that sort of inverted wing back, making that run in behind, through the channels, making that clever run, as it says in the top left there. The wing backs, not only are they responsible for keeping the width, but I think what they need to do is also make a bit more clever runs at times for the likes of their strikers, for the likes of their creators. We saw against Chelsea, there were so many times actually where Harry Kane picked up the ball. He was actually able to play in behind players like Emerson, actually, at times, where he's play in between the lines to someone like Emerson. So Emerson, Sessegnon are the two likely candidates to start tomorrow in this wingbacks. I think what's important tomorrow is someone like a Sessegnon, especially coming up against Mark Albrighton, who's not the best fullback in the world defensively, should be able to make runs in behind him, cause him a bit of struggle, not let him think about things going forward, make him more think about the defensive side, and just make those runs in behind him and cause a bit of havoc. And Harry Kane, when he picks up the ball in these sort of spaces, he will find that pass. He will find that sort of, ball in behind for one of these players. We saw it against Chelsea, even just very recently, as a good example. The guy was just, playing beautiful dimes in and out all over the pitch. He was just playing beautiful, beautiful passes. And I feel like this is something that should be taken into consideration as maybe him playing one of the wing backs in behind. Yes, he could play Bergwijn or Lucas in behind, but he can also play one of the wing backs in behind if they make those sort of clever runs. So it is something I would say everybody do be on the lookout for. And we do want to see that. I want to see our wingbacks make more clever runs in behind. I know they're responsible for, keeping the width, but I also want to see them make those runs in behind as well.
No, 100%. And I think with this Leicester team, I think it is very important that Sessegnon and Emerson keep the width. But with Sessegnon coming in, it means we don't have to rely on Emerson the whole time down that right-hand side, because Doherty was just cutting inside when he was playing out there in the last couple of games. Same predictable thing. With Emerson, with Sessegnon, he'll be able to keep the width. And he has a decent enough delivery on him. So you can vary which side you're going down on the pitch now. You don't just have to keep going down Emerson's side. And and Albrighton's not a natural right back either. So hopefully Sessegnon can expose him.
Yeah, hopefully Sessegnon will expose him, and I think Sessegnon should be able to expose him, to be fair. We need him to be better going forward, I would say, for this one than be defensively, solid. Moondog saying, I have no doubt that we will win tomorrow. I mean, I think we should be able to, because at the end of the day, Leicester City are without a lot of their players for this one. I know it's been tough to probably, think about what players we're sort of fielding for this one, but we do have to kind of think about like they're missing their defensive midfielders, they're missing their fullbacks, they're missing a lot of very, very key positions in their 11 for this one. So Moondog, I feel like we need to win this one. I'm hopeful we win this one. I feel like we should win this one. That's my answer to you. Really do appreciate the support, Moondog, and honestly, good talking point. But everybody, like I always say, if you do want to stop us at any point, we do basically just want to give you the facts, just give you the stats, give you the tactics as quickly as possible, as most efficient as possible for your time. If you do want to stop us at any stage, at any rate, feel free to throw it in a super chat. It really does go a long way. But the last one I know David will like is Kane the Creator, which I think he should be called. He should probably legally change his name to that, Kane the Creator, because I don't know, Dave, there are certain people that if they had their way, probably would have this guy, probably, not even playing for Spurs anymore if they had their way. I guess it would be Bergwijn the Creator, which I don't even know if that makes any sense saying out loud. But I don't know, Dave. I mean, this one's just about Kane being our creative force.
Yeah, look, I mean, Kane the Creator, I can see it now, Jack, Hollywood movie, leading actor, David Harris. I can see it right now. Look, if a lot of people had their way, Jack, Kane would be at City banging in 60 goals a season. We'd be sitting here looking at Bergwijn crying, saying, why did we sell Harry Kane? It's a good job the Spurs fan base has me in it, to be honest with you, who brought a bit of clarity and a bit of sense to the immediate reaction of the situation. Just spoke to Harry, sent him some songs, like, look, Harry, you got to stay. And he just obliged. I mean, look, that's why I'm Harry Kane's #1 fan.
There you go, everybody. There you are. And so this is going to be Harry Kane basically creating for us. I think what's really important about this, and this can be a bit interesting, and I think, I do want to kind of, as well as get the chats, but as well as David's kind of thoughts on this, I think what's really important in this sort of match is to basically get the center backs of Leicester occupied. You don't want the likes of Vestergaard and Soyuncu kind of looking like at each other like, maybe we'll just, mark a bit higher. Maybe we'll take up some other players. If you have Bergwijn or Lucas as well as Harry Kane, maybe causing them a lot of chaos, like figuring out, God, which ones do we mark? We have to mark one of them. They're causing a bit of trouble here. I think that will actually allow us to do quite well, because if you do find it where the likes of Lucas, Bergwijn and Kane are kind of occupying the center backs, making them have to think, making them constantly have to switch, you will create spaces then for Harry Kane to pick up the ball to basically play someone in behind. And that's what's exactly what this sort of is basically Harry Kane losing that center back, because the movement of Lucas and Bergwijn forces Vestergaard and Soyuncu to give up Harry Kane to the midfield. But the midfield, will probably struggle to even track Harry Kane's movement as well. And so what this happens is that Harry Kane, instead of the wingers picking it up in the half spaces, Harry Kane will pick it up in the half spaces. And Harry Kane, given that he is our best creator in the 11, probably starting tomorrow, he will then find that sort of pass in behind, in between the lines, through somebody, through the box. And I think what could be maybe interesting here is this pass I think we actually saw from Harry Kane in that Chelsea fixture at home. We saw this pass that he makes to Emerson here actually, quite decently produce a very good chance. And so I would say this could be a decent, opportunity to maybe replicate via this kind of animation platform, where we could maybe say that maybe Harry Kane picks up the ball in the half space here, finds Emerson in behind. Emerson, for once in his life, finds that ball in the box, across the 18 to somebody that is open. And that's what I think this could be, is Harry Kane basically losing his marker, losing Vestergaard in that kind of half space in the midfield and the back four. And then basically he plays in one of his teammates. His teammates basically just slide it across the 18 into somebody that is there for the tap in. So Harry Kane, everybody, in these creative spaces is certainly quite deadly. And I do have another one for you as well, everybody, from last time that I did this stats with Jack that ended up not being an actual video, because, Harry Kane also in this one as well, wasn't able to show, his brilliance against Leicester, because this is, of course, still the first match that we played against Leicester this season, because the last one we got postponed. So that meant the last stats with Jack got postponed during the last time. So this is, again, Harry Kane picking it up in the half spaces. Harry Kane turns and finds his man in behind. In this case, I believe he's finding a bit of a kind of a Lucas and Darty kind of situation, where Darty, I think for this one, was predicted to be right wing back. And then he finds, a Darty in behind, which maybe could be true. Could be Emerson in this situation. But everybody, again, Harry Kane in those half spaces, basically causing a bit of trouble for those center backs in that miscommunication between the back four and the midfield. It's very easy, I think, to predict that Harry Kane could be also that pass that leads to the goal sort of player that could be for tomorrow. He's not only going to get a brace tomorrow, Dave, but he's also going to be that guy that is going to be the pass that leads to the goal as well.
I mean, Jack, he has to be, doesn't he? He has to be. He's the only one that can do it, poor mate. Look, when it comes to Harry Kane, the reason why he ends up going creating is because he makes these runs in behind. Like, people is always shouting, why is he not staying up top? I mean, you watch the first little while of the games, he stays up top. He makes them runs. He's not found. So the later the game goes on, the more frustrated he gets. So the dropper he deeps, he's the one. He's like, well, if they can't find my runs, I'll drop deep and I find their runs. And that's what he ends up doing. And that's why he turns into chief creator, Jack. But look, it's my Harry. I mean, he can do everything. He's world class. Look,
I mean, they should call him Sir, Dave. They should call him Boss. They should call him Chief. They should call him Don. They should call him all the things that, people would be upset, with calling him, because I think he deserves it at the end of the day. You should call him Chief Creator, Sir Creator, Don the Harry Kane Creator. I don't know, Dave. I mean, it's at the end of the day, I think he deserves those titles.
No, he does. He definitely does. I mean, look, to be honest with you, I think a lot of Spurs fans should go groveling to Harry, to be honest with you, because they did really get on his case. They did really abuse him. And, I don't think it was warranted. I sat there, I tried telling people, look at the service he's given this club. You can't tell me he doesn't love Tottenham. Turns out he does anyway. I knew he did. But when it comes to Harry Kane, Jack, hopefully he can bring that second half performance from the second leg against Chelsea into this game. And he will absolutely rip that Vestergaard a new one. Honestly, that 6'7" plank, he's going to destroy him tomorrow. Can't wait.
Here you are, everybody. Players to target for Leicester City. I would say this is actually quite an easy one to do. Out of all the times that it's been harder to do this sort of, kind of slide, this one's a lot easier. Vestergaard, I would say, is absolutely a player to target. He's not played well for Leicester City this season, as well as we all know. He is, very, I would say, actually, to be fair to Vestergaard, very good player on the ball, actually, underrated ball player. But is really suspect when it comes to his pace, has no recovery pace. He has a lot of strength. He has a lot of kind of, upward kind of strength, but he really does struggle if you kind of, find him in times. Like if you have a Lucas Moura driving out of Vestergaard, I mean, we all know who's going to win that. It's going to be Lucas Moura because the guy really does struggle in one-on-one situations with a quicker player. So I would say Vestergaard, that's exactly how I expose him is, you find Lucas Moura picking up the ball and just driving right at him and finding a way to be able to create a bit of chaos through there. Kasper Schmeichel is one of the players to target. And the reason he is one of the players to target is because he, in fact, everybody has, in terms, especially when it comes to big teams like Leicester, he is actually one of the lowest or however you put it, one of the worst post-shot expected goals so far this season, which is basically a metric of shots that are on target at the keeper, the likelihood of the keeper saving that sort of shot. And he has actually had some of the worst numbers in that regard this season. So Kasper Schmeichel, more or less, in kind of, simpler words, has not been saving the shots that he should be saving. He's basically having one of the worst seasons he's ever had in the Leicester net so far. So I would say you should take that into consideration. He basically should be somebody that I would say Harry Kane, as well as Lucas, as well as even Steven Bergwijn, if he can. I would be taking shots. I would be trying to test the keeper because he's not had a good season so far this season at being tested, as well as from set pieces, as we discussed before, a team that does suffer a lot of set pieces. I would put someone like a Davinson Sanchez right in front of him to cause him a bit of trouble, to cause him a bit of havoc, to cause him a bit of kind of annoyance, because then you're just going to make his job a whole lot harder. He is somebody that I would take advantage of on set pieces. He's somebody I would take advantage of with shots from distance. He's just somebody that I would not respect, basically. I would try to not respect Kasper Schmeichel. I would have as many shots on goal as I can because he's having one of the worst seasons so far this season of his career, as well as he's just not saved a bunch of shots so far this season statistically that he should have saved. It's kind of simply put, there's really no arguing with it. The third person that we probably should target is whoever that defensive midfielder is going to be. Again, no Sumare, no Ndidi, no Mendy. Those are three of their defensive midfielders, ball kind of destroying midfielders that are not going to be there for this sort of match. Who's it going to be? It might be Dewsbury Hall. It might be a under 23 player, whoever it may be. I would say, everybody, we have to take apart that player. We have to isolate them. We have to attack them. We have to make their life difficult. So that defensive midfielder who won't be Ndidi, who won't be Sumare, who won't be Mendy, we have to absolutely attack. So those are the players to target, everybody, for tomorrow. And again, I would say this is a sort of slide that you basically won't get anywhere else in the Spurs community, everybody. Key battles, again, it's going to be Lucas Moura and Harry Kane versus Vestergaard. I think this is quite obvious, like I was explaining before. You have that combination of Harry Kane and Lucas Moura, a very deadly combo. Them going up against a very slow Vestergaard could create a lot of trouble, could create a lot of problems, I would argue, because of his pace.
That's a good point, Jack. If Lucas can isolate himself against Vestergaard, oh my God, honestly.
I think he's probably the worst player in the Premier League to come up against Lucas. I think he's the worst player in the Premier League, Dave, to come up against Lucas.
Yeah.
Like the last defender in the entire Premier League you would pick up in a one-on-one situation against Lucas, you'd be like, no, that is not Vestergaard. That is not Vestergaard. You would never do that. Vestergaard, actually, to be fair, could do well against someone like a Harry Kane, because they kind of match each other for pace. Yeah. But when you then have the combination of Harry Kane and Lucas, Dave, like that's just a deadly combo that I feel like Vestergaard is going to have a lot of trouble with, or should have a lot of trouble with.
No, he will. He definitely will. I mean, like, that's a good point you made. If Lucas can get around at Vestergaard, it's good night, Vestergaard. The branches are falling off the tree.
He's built like a tree. I mean, let alone a fridge. He's built like a tree, Dave. That's one of the key battles, everybody, that we can look at. Another key battle will be Patson Daka against Davinson Sanchez and Ben Davies. Ben Davies, I would say the reason I included him in this one is just because I was seeing a bit of the social distance defending at one stage. Last time against Chelsea, we saw it before against Man United. I am a bit worried because when he comes up against players that are very pacey, when he comes up against players that are very good at running in behind, it seems like Ben Davies tries to honor that or respect that too much. And he does a bit of that social distance sort of defending that I do kind of criticize him for. And then, I don't know, David, Davinson Sanchez, we've seen this 1,000 times. any sort of player that makes a run and beyond him. He's just constantly ball watching. He just doesn't even know the guy's making a run and behind him. And Patson Daka will be that man. He will be making runs in between the likes of Ben Davies and Davinson Sanchez, and he'll cause him a lot of problems. So I would say, everybody, this is a huge key battle. How will Davinson Sanchez and Ben Davies marshal, the runs and the movement and the hard work of Patson Daka?
No, 100%. I mean, look, I was explaining a bit earlier on in the show. Sorry, I probably jumped the gun. If I knew this key battle was coming up, I would have waited. But yeah, no, look, Patson Daka, he's going to run them absolutely ragged. The whole lot of them, treat them. Japhet Tanganga as well. But yeah, look, Davinson Sanchez, I worry at him if Patson Daka gets a run on him. And same as Ben Davies, just because of Ben Davies' pace. But yeah, it's worrying. It's worrying. They're going to have to stay switched on because, like, the thing is with these guys, they'll follow 9 of his runs out of 10. But it's that one run they don't follow that'll cost us.
Right. No, I think you're right. To be fair, I don't think this will be a tough one for Ben Davies because I don't see Davinson Sanchez tracking any one of those runs, to be fair, actually, David. Yeah. So it'll be maybe how does Ben Davies maybe track them, I guess, because I think we have yet. This is even Eric Dyer has been the best one in our middle of the three at tracking those runs, but I don't even think he's been that great at tracking some of those runs at times as well. So I would say this is going to be a tough one. This is certainly going to be a tough one in that regard. The final key battle is going to be Emerson versus Harvey Barnes and Luke Thomas. Again, everybody, I did just kind of, stat pad Emerson. I basically gave you all the reasons why maybe we shouldn't write off Emerson too quickly in the season. So maybe this could be a big key battle to people that are looking at maybe what can Emerson do. He's coming up against Harvey Barnes and Luke Thomas, some of their most creative players in the entire 11, especially James Madison. James Madison loves to also as well come over to the left-hand side because that means he can cut inside and be able to whip a ball in or have a shot from distance, which he loves to do. So you could look at it as this being a big day defensively for Emerson. And I would say in terms of defensive ability, he's been great. In terms of going forward, he's been horrible. So at least in a defensive reason, you have him coming up against Harvey Barnes and Luke Thomas. And I would say in terms of what we have available, he's the best option for, kind of marshaling these two coming up against him. But hopefully we see him having, not too much to deal with, kind of defensively and maybe having a bit more going forward. And then we might see hopefully a better Emerson display. But I would say if he has a lot to do defensively for this one, he could probably have a good chance of marshaling these two because these two are quite good together. They have good chemistry, Luke Thomas and Harvey Barnes. It's just how will Emerson be able to marshal it is up to question.
Do you know what, Jack? Simply show them the weight room. Show them on the outside and show them the weight room. It's that simple. It's how you stop these kids.
Completely agree, Dave. And, I'd love to say that as well. But that is the end of Stats with Jack, everybody. That is the end of the show. Hopefully you did enjoy this one. Hopefully you did find maybe something to learn from. That's basically what this show is because sometimes, I would say not only do we give the best preview the day of in the entire Spurs community, but we also give you the night before sort of preview where you just can dream about the stats. You can dream about the tactics for what's happening tomorrow, but as well as you can, kind of talk about with the pre-match build up as well on what will we be talking about. So again, everybody, you get the stats kind of tactics preview, but then tomorrow as well, you just get basically what you just saw today in question form from David as well, which I just would say it's just a 2-part kind of preview. You don't get better previews in the entire community, I must say. So everybody, again, that is practically part 1 of the Leicester City sort of preview. It's basically the one where we just break down all the stats on Leicester, all the tactics on Leicester, but also as well break down all the stats and all the tactics when it comes to Spurs as well. Hopefully you did enjoy it. It is always a pleasure to make this one. It's always a pleasure to break down this one. It's almost like a podcast length, I would say, this sort of one as well. So I would say if you did miss it, feel free to watch it tomorrow as well, in case you didn't catch the whole thing too. But Dave, I'll pass it on to you. Stats with Jack, Leicester City. I would say Spurs for this one. I'm going to go 2-1 for my prediction of a score line. But I would say, everybody, as you can see, there's every part of Leicester City, every part of Spurs when it comes to this match we have broken down.
I'm still going to stick with my original 3-1. Harry Kane with a brace, Lucas with 1. And I just think I have a feeling Tanganga will get the selection again. And I just fear him switching off from a set piece. Maybe that's one of the battles you should have put in, a blindfolded Tanganga with a corner flag, Jack. Oh, that's good. That's good. But no, honestly, Jack, the amount of work that goes into this, and this is what people don't see behind the scenes. amount of work that Jack really puts into this for this stream. This one is his absolute baby, and I just thank you everybody for all your support for it. It's absolutely incredible. And a lot of you tuning in after the Chelsea game, which I found very interesting. People wanting to see Chelsea drop points, which is absolutely fantastic. But look, Jack, I mean, you have it broken down expertly there. I mean, people can go away from here knowing exactly what to expect from Leicester and exactly what to expect from Tottenham.
I completely agree, Dave, and hopefully they'll find, maybe something to look at. I would say, as well as anybody that does like, fancying a bet as well, I would say we covered every single metric that you needed to. Maybe like who might make, who might score, who in the Leicester City lineup, maybe might score, how many goals there could be, maybe what in particular you might say could be the man of the match. Everything is broken down easily there for you. So I would say, especially if you fancy a bet, especially if you fancy a fiver, put on something. Feel free as well to watch back this whole show. But that is the end of everybody of Stats with Jack. Hopefully you did appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow with the pre-match build-up. We couldn't do a show tonight, kind of just discussing Spurs news. So we will push that over to Thursday, everybody. After the match, tomorrow, we will having a show with Sean Butler, as well as I believe one more. We will be discussing kind of a bit of the transfer news, a bit of the transfer gossip, as well as, maybe some dealings having to do with Spurs, maybe increasing a certain, particular beverage, as well as, food over at the, Spurs stadiums. We'll be discussing a lot of things with Sean, a bit of heated debates as usual. But everybody, this is just kind of a chill night, breaking down the stats, breaking down the tactics, constantly. I mean, we've been doing it the whole season, Dave. We just took a bit of a break over the holidays, to kind of catch up on it. But, we just break down the stats. We break down the tactics for practically every game, which is, I would say, quite a feat. And I would say really do appreciate everybody for coming on for these ones, for kind of showing a bit of the support for this one. But everybody, that is the end of the first part of the preview. The second part of the preview will be tomorrow, I believe around 10:30 a.m. my time, and then around I believe 3:30, half 3 Dave's time over in the UK, everybody. So do come over to the second part of the preview.
No, make sure you do. So that's 3:30 tomorrow for the preview, 7:30 for the watch along, guys, tomorrow, and then back again Thursday with transfer and club news. But guys, make sure everybody you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button if you are new as well. Over at the Flat Cap Euro Talk for Jack as well. Absolutely brilliant channel over there. He analyzes all the players that Tottenham are linked with. So I mean, you can get a good grasp of it yourself, whether you think he's going to be a good fit for Tottenham, whether they're not, and stuff like that. So make sure you do get over and check out the Flat Cap as well. He done a brilliant show with Darius as well, over there as well. So make sure you get over and check that out. Absolute brilliant discussion by Jack and Darius. It was absolutely phenomenal on how to fix Tottenham Hotspur. So make sure you do get over there and check that out. But guys, as well, feel free to get your comments in below this video. Let us know your thoughts, score predictions, or whatever else it is you want answered. And we'll be sure to make sure we get back to you as soon as the comment goes up. But as always, come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust. Game day tomorrow. Get out of the bed the right side. Let's get after it.
Conte we trust. Levy out. And Antonio Conte we trust. Well said, Dave.
Everywhere we go.